Everything you need is to succeed at least once. A terrifying werewolf in fury prepares to strike with its sharp claws, which end up hitting the cheek of a young warrior who narrowly dodges and prepares a counterattack with his sword. However, the werewolf leaps into the air, surprising the warrior with its agility. With no time to react, the monster's foot approaches the swordsman at high speed, delivering a powerful kick to the man's jaw, sending him flying. The blow is so strong that just the impact against the wall caused immense destruction in the area. Finally, the warrior finds himself practically defeated in a pitiful state amid stones and dust. However, he used his last strength to mock the monster, which despite knocking him down had been pierced by him. A few seconds later, the warrior recovers and grabs his sword, which is embedded in the werewolf's body, to finish it off once and for all, ending the monster's life with a cinematic, precise, and fatal vertical strike. Then he thinks there's nothing in this infernal world, and a system message informs him that the level 4 Hellhound is exterminated. He is alone with these monsters that keep appearing, and the system continues saying that he has gained a certain amount of experience. While grumbling, one of the messages catches his attention, informing him of a level up. However, suddenly a system error appears with the notification starting to collapse along with the warrior's mental state, causing immense frustration in the swordsman, who was informed that level 4 Ryu Hanbin returned to level 1. He needs to be at level 5 to move to the next area, making him cry out for help as he is desperate to be stuck in this place for so long. However, the endless red immensity of that place seemed to have no end. During his terrible stay in this plane, the young warrior had faced dragons in his first year. Then 2 years passed with him still trapped in that place trying to adapt. Thus time continued for 3 and 5 years, with the hero now facing the monsters that once tormented him. In a battle with one of them, the system warns that after piercing the dragon, the fall would likely lead to his end, but that didn't happen. After being trapped in this hell for so long, the only thing left for the warrior to maintain his sanity and hope was counting his days on the cave walls. But 10 years had already passed since he fell into this world, so he gave up counting the days and in a fit of rage, destroyed the place with a punch. The man had been isolated for so long, having fought only against monsters for a decade. Thus, even with the system sabotaging him, he naturally became stronger. On a typical day of his routine, the hero starts thinking about what his current level might be. Meanwhile, he finds himself above a colossal dragon, ready to start his hunt. Somewhere in the kingdom's alleys, whispers are heard followed by unpleasant moans. A blonde man is being attacked, and already on the ground with his last breath, he comments that these demons are scum, and that the goddess will have no mercy on them. But the aggressor finishes him off before he can give any elaborate testament. A hooded figure tells his partner to take it easy because they'll be in serious trouble if they're caught by a Rathanian, but the woman doesn't seem to care about the warning. However, the man says they can return there to kill more once they've completed the contract, which convinces the girl to leave the place. Finally, the woman comments that their job is easy because they just need to find the person who came to this world the same way they did. And as she leaves the alley, the girl sets everything on fire to cover the evidence. This is a world called Thelha Rathna, where someone is selected as the chosen one. The objective in this world is to survive and become as strong as possible. After this brief explanation, a small wolf bites the protagonist's arm and throws him to the ground, making him scream in pain. The man rolls for several meters among the stones and landslides of the place, and when he manages to stop, he is extremely confused, not knowing what is happening there or where he is. Then he looked back, wondering what that dog was. However, he didn't even have time to think about his current situation, already having to defend himself by smashing the animal's skull with the stone that was beside him and throwing it away. As he went to check the monster's body after his attack, one thing was on his mind: if he didn't finish off the animal, it would kill him. Even with its jaw completely shattered by the received stone hit, the monster's instinct makes it continue its assault to the end, placing the protagonist against the edge of a cliff. While he doesn't understand why the animal is attacking him, a yellow message appears in front of him saying it contains instructions. This confuses him as he realizes there is a system of levels and strength, and that players can level up and gain experience by defeating monsters. For a moment, this trace of happiness at realizing he is in a fantasy world causes the hero to lose concentration on the monster that is about to strike him. In such a case, he couldn't stop thinking about where things started to go wrong. As he got up from his bed, he thought about how he woke up every day at noon and wondered if he had been too lazy. 3 months had passed since he was released from mandatory military service, so he felt he had enough reason to relax a bit. Thinking that after leaving the army he could become an active part of society, the last 3 months ended up being an eternal void. Nothing in him changed even in the 2 years he spent serving, with his reality being just eating chips and using his computer recreationally. However, this was a reality that would change very soon. While eating his chips as usual, suddenly a brown smoke began to envelop him, leaving him desperate. But there was nothing he could do, so the smoke began to consume him. And within seconds of this event, he had completely disappeared from the room, leaving only his chair and peripherals as abandoned legacies. In a black and white plane, someone states that all the chosen ones have been gathered, and our hero wonders if he has gone to a better place. The voice continues to complain about the small number of people present, as in a herd there were 7 billion candidates. Someone converses with this voice, informing that precisely because there were 7 billion candidates, they managed to find so many chosen ones. The protagonist cannot understand what is being said and wonders if this is the voice of God, while the voice continues to instruct all the players. The first voice asks if they can really do this, questioning if it won't be too artificial, but the other responds that it will serve as motivation and help. So after deciding on the discussion, the transmission of instructions begins, and a beam of light pierces the protagonist's chest, making him groan in pain. The voice noticed there was an error in the instructions, but didn't care since it only happened to one person. Thus, the chosen one, number 388, begins his dimensional transport. While smashing the wolf's skull with a stone, our protagonist thinks he was selected as a chosen one, and that where he is the world of Thelharathna. However, his reality is of tremendous insalubrity. Even now, our warrior cannot believe that everything he is going through is real, and while he is frustrated, he is also irritated. His life is now in this hell without the comforts of before, and without his parents, he doesn't know what will happen to him. In a fit of rage, the protagonist throws a stone away and punches the ground. After his moment of despair, he comments about being released just 3 months ago. So he didn't even get a girlfriend, lamenting about why this is happening to him. Suddenly, a system message informs him of danger and says that at the moment there is only a 5% chance of surviving in Thelharathna with the player's current abilities. The situation confuses our hero, who begins to realize that this thing is really testing his consciousness by asking if he wants to end his life. The situation was revolting because those people kidnapped a normal person and abandoned him in a different world, saying it's necessary to kill monsters to gain experience. So an option in the system to end his own life is being induced to be chosen. Wisely, the protagonist declines, thinking that if he dies, he will not be sent home, and deciding to stay calm. They wouldn't have kidnapped him if they planned to send him back home after he died. Whether he likes it or not, it will be his end if he doesn't take care around here. For now, the protagonist needs to think of a way to survive and find a way out of there. In light of this, the system informs that the chosen one had his strength increased by finding his fighting spirit. As a yellow light shines in his eyes, several windows appear and ask for a class to be chosen. Quickly, a protagonist's expression improves as he realizes he will no longer have to fight with bare hands and can choose a class. The warrior class is presented as a melee class that can use various martial techniques, but the hero thinks this is only fun in games. Then, upon viewing the mage class and understanding that long-distance combat is the best thing to do, he decides to choose this class. However, upon confirming his choice, the system informs him that the selection was rejected because he doesn't have the necessary capacity for the class. So the hero tries the magic swordsman class, but his selection is rejected again, followed by the rejection of the healer and priest classes, which makes the protagonist lament in frustration. Finally, he found himself forced to choose the last remaining class, the one he had initially denied, the warrior class. In the next selection stage, the system asks him to choose an initial weapon. Understanding that long reach is essential, the hero chooses the long spear, not wanting any other weapon. After this, a strong light emanates from that virtual window, ready to reveal the player's initial weapon, which unexpectedly turns out to be a long sword. The hero tries to argue with the system that he had chosen the long spear and not the sword, but that previous error occurs again. Nervous as never before, he starts to complain and insult the system. But in a split second, the window closes, and the hero remembers that voice saying it made a mistake in the instructions. Knowing that the instructions were the only useful things there, an error could be something that might condemn his life. On the verge of madness, the hero falls to the ground and starts to laugh, but thinks that he doesn't want to act as those people expect him to. So wielding his sword, he thinks that at least this is better than a stone. However, the hero doesn't want his end to be there and is determined to do whatever it takes. Thus, in this place, his hellish and endless journey of strengthening will begin. On the other hand, while the protagonist trains with his sword, he apparently doesn't seem to have many skills with it, inevitably falling to the ground and starting to lament his situation. 7 days have passed since the hero came to Thelharathna, and he has asked the tutorial countless times how he could go home. But it remains silent every time, making him wonder if it was just another bug. Anyway, at this moment, the hero is fighting to survive. An animal hits his shoulder, causing pain, and the protagonist chases after the monster, very irritated. The dogs he always faces are hellhounds, and if there's one thing he has learned, is that these dogs level up too. Additionally, after he strikes with his sword, he takes the opportunity to advance and attack again. This makes the protagonist wonder if the monster is learning to face him just as he is, so he has only one choice, which is to charge with all his strength, attacking primitively. However, the blow is not effective at all, as the animal easily dodges. Now far from his attack, the monster starts to laugh, making our hero think he has no talent with swords. Now it's the animal's turn to attack with a bloodthirsty instinct. It charges with everything it has. However, the hero is now more prepared than before and is about to use his secret resource, his thrusting skill, which incredibly finishes the animal with just one strike. The system informs him that the level 2 hellhound has been exterminated and awards 22 experience points to the protagonist. Ryu Hanbin finally obtained a skill upon reaching level 2, but because he hasn't learned how to handle a sword, he can barely use his thrust effectively. Furthermore, this is just one of the tutorial functions. If you search through the system, hellhounds can also be considered perfect food as they contain fats, amino acids, carbohydrates, fibers, and minerals. But even with all their violent nature, their fangs and claws become unusable right after death, so this place seems to have been artificially created. Ryu was sure there is a reason they brought him here, since there would be no reason to keep him trapped for nothing. Remembering the voice's comment about there being only 7 billion candidates, the hero wonders where the other chosen ones were sent. However, something in the system window catches his attention, making him stop eating. It informs that the protagonist will be able to leave the Rocky Mountains, which is his current area, and meet other chosen ones once he reaches level 5. Ryu is surprised by the information received, and the system continues. The initial zone is made up of Rocky Mountains and is a safe area where death rates are lower and experience gain is optimized. Monsters corresponding to the level only appear in safe zones, and once the hero reaches level 20, he will be able to complete the map of Thela Rathna and travel to the continent. All this information fries the hero's brain, who begins to put the pieces together. This is a beginner area where players level up to level 5, and if he reaches level 5, he can proceed and then form groups with others upon reaching level 20. Basically, upon reaching level 20 and being transported to the continent, the real battle will begin, and all of this makes Ryu crazy with anxiety. He understands that this is how the Hellhounds are getting stronger, and although it is not important, the hero still wants to return home someday. Ryu believes he cannot trust the tutorial, so to meet other chosen ones and get more information, he must reach level 5 and get out of there. After that, the hero started wandering in search of hellhounds and consequently began hunting them. With the hellhounds growing stronger at the same pace as he was, defeating them did not become any easier. While eating a piece of roasted meat, the system informed the hero that he gained 22 more experience points, consequently leveling up. And by leveling up, he learned the side-slash skill, continuing to face those dogs. Facing a level 3 hellhound with strength similar to that of a beginner warrior, he fought and was injured. Besides having eliminated many of them, eaten, slept, fought, gotten injured, and killed, with this sequence repeating countless times in an endless cycle of gaining experience and killing monsters. After being headbutted in the stomach by one of the hellhounds, our protagonist flew far, being thrown against the ground. He manages to compose himself, and while sliding on the ground, uses one of his hands to grab some sand. Then the monster again tries to attack Ryu with a bite that, if it hit, would end everything. But in a cunning act, the hero throws that sand into the monster's eyes, blinding it for a short period. Then he grabs his sword and delivers a side slash right in the middle of the hellhound's face, ultimately finishing it off. As a result, the system informs him of more experience gained and that Ryu has now reached the necessary amount of experience. After the 27th day, our hero finally reaches goal, leaving him in a state of immense happiness and relief. Having leveled up until now, Ryu had learned 3 skills: the thrust, the side slash, and the vertical slash. Not only that, but his body also began to show the effects of the attributes he gained, now being at the peak physical condition of a man. Even his sword, which was difficult to wield before, had become easy to handle, but as he praised his achievements, an error appeared again in the system window. That's what he thought, but suddenly something strange was happening. The system informed that Ryu Hanbin, who was previously a level 4 warrior, had now returned to level 1. While trying to deny the reality, our hero thinks the tutorial is going crazy, and that it must be just a message error. However, upon checking his status window again, he realized that the level change had indeed happened, bringing him back to level 1 once more. This left the protagonist in a state of immense fury, screaming in disbelief at the injustice happening to him. However, Ryu tries to calm down because he realizes that at least his attributes were retained as well as his skills. At first, the hero tried to look at things optimistically, thinking he had the chance to get ahead of his peers by farming all the XP of the 5 levels again. He somewhat convinced himself that this would be a beneficial experience for building his character. But what awaited him was nothing like what the hero had in mind. When facing the level 1 hellhound again, Ryu realizes that the monster is at a completely different level. He was wrong because the hellhounds continued to grow stronger despite their levels also returning to the beginning, making Ryu continue to risk his life day after day in each battle. After countless attempts to reach level 5, our hero always maintained the hope that this time it would work. He was sure that if he tried one more time, he would succeed. But this repeated infinitely until Ryu finally began to despair. During another fight, now against a massive 3-headed hellhound, the protagonist cuts it down with ease. Our hero continued killing monsters that kept getting stronger and kept checking his experience. This time, he was only 77 experience points away from evolving to level 5 and leaving that place. The hero, while carrying the monster's body, comments that 7 used to be his lucky number, so this time, everything will go well. And as he throws it into a ravine full of monster bones, Ryu thinks that in the last 7 years, he has survived in this hellish situation, going from level 1 to 4 in an eternal cycle. The Chosen Ones do not age, and thanks to the recovery ability, all wounds heal in just 1 day. Returning to level 1 does not reduce their attributes, but they cannot learn new skills because they cannot surpass level 4. Their only skills are thrust, side slash, and vertical slash. As the hero is about to face a massive bone hellhound, he mocks the monster that came to him, making its extermination easier. The system notified that the monsters were placed there to help the chosen ones get stronger, but they are only there to be killed. In this case, an undead monster makes no sense. However, after so much time in that place, the same can be said about our protagonist. The tutorial transmission for the Chosen Ones was completed, and the 5th Jaren Rathan operation was initiated. A being thinks they are well accustomed to it since it's their 5th time there, and even in another world, players take at most a year to complete everything. While walking, they just hope to find some useful players this time. But they notice something amid that emptiness. A world seemingly discarded by someone, and probably broken, which makes them think it's very strange. Then, while rummaging through that box, the being inevitably finds a picture frame of the player Ryu Hanbin, who is currently connected to Felharatna. In a peaceful house on a comfortable bed, someone is resting. This person is Ryu, who wakes up in his home, wondering if he has really returned to his original world. He believes it makes sense because he was just discharged and thinks he should sleep a bit more. However, a system alarm catches his attention, not letting the hero sleep. It again urges the protagonist to end his life as a way to camouflage the mistake he made. Facing the gravity of the situation he was about to take, Ryu wakes up in that hellish world and quickly removes his hand from the system button. Sitting on the ground in a state of confusion, the hero wonders where he is. He remembers that he has been killing hellhounds like a madman for the past 10 years, thinking it seems he survived another day. But inevitably, he ended up back at level 1 again. This makes him curl up in a fetal position and grunt in frustration. The hero wonders if he can really say he is living and if it wouldn't be better to just give up. However, this depressive thought quickly leaves his mind when the protagonist hears a strange noise. As he gets up from the ground, Ryu wonders if, after agonizing for so long, he will be sent home if he decides to end his life. Still, if he is going to die, it would be better to make his life worth something, and even then, there was a part of the hero that didn't want to give up. In this case, Ryu, wielding his sword, returns to the combat zone, deciding to at least defeat one more of those bastards. After being trapped in this hell for 10 years, the hero gave up counting the days. He no longer knew how much time had passed, whether it was 5 or 7 years. So he developed a hobby and even found something to do. Surviving alone is not an easy task, and this harsh environment did not allow him to be lazy. Because of this, after his weapon was destroyed by the wear of time, our hero in his hobby creates a new one, bigger and better. And as he places it to rest on his back, Ryu thinks that this is now his reality. In the case of not being able to change his situation, he can dedicate himself to doing whatever he can. If there was nothing but rocks, then he just needed to create things, and that's how he built a house, living each day more devoted to this lifestyle. Until now, Ryu no longer lived with anger, but in an instant, his dream was destroyed by a giant hellhound that crushed the hero's house. At that moment, the hero couldn't believe what had just happened. And with no time to rest, a hand from the monster sweeps across the ground, coming towards the hero to hit him. Suddenly, the blow strikes Ryu, who is thrown far away, destroying everything in his path. However, the monster was also hit, having his arm cut off by the protagonist. The hellhound can't believe the state of its hand. But the hero cuts short its lamentation, saying it took him 3 years to build that house. With this, an intimidating aura begins to emanate from the protagonist as he remembers his house, which was turned to dust by the monster. Since it was small, this time Ryu decides to build a palace with the bones of that hellhound. Giant hellhounds like this started to appear, but they were noisy and didn't even taste good. Understanding the danger is in, the monster takes flight to try to escape, and Ryu mocks the monster, saying that even though it is so big, it is still a coward. Despite everything, after constant hunting, the hero learned the best strategy to defeat them since they always start with a powerful attack. In a display of power, the hellhound launches its fire attack, the Draconic Breath. Ryu is slightly impressed by the monster starting with such a potent attack. Inevitably, the attack hits everything within its radius, releasing fire, dust, and lightning. After that powerful attack, the monster waits for the dust to settle, standing to check the state of its enemy. However, what it sees is something that defies natural laws and all possible logic. It is clear that it is impossible to dodge the Hellhound's breath attack because the area of effect is too large, so the hero covers his body and blocks the damage with his strength. But even though he defended himself, the monster burned the tips of his hair, saving him a trip to the beauty salon. Surprised to see the enemy in perfect condition, the Hellhound then casts thunder, light, and fire spells, but these were very painful to be hit by. In this case, the hero blocks them by creating a large earth wall lifted by swinging his sword against the ground, and after that, he quickly dissipates the created barrier. Thus, he moves to deliver his final blow. However, not everything always goes according to the hero's wishes, as it cannot be said that he has talent for swordsmanship. So Ryu improvises by using his physical potential to his advantage. Moreover, the hero also doesn't have other skills because he can't level up. But with the ones he has already trained them many times. To be more precise, he trained them 10,000 times each. Then Ryu consecutively strikes the monster with a vertical slash, a side slash, and a thrust. Combining the three skills, a new one is created, the cross-cut named Triple Cross Attack. It is not a real skill, but no monster can stand after being hit by it, so Ryu is happy to survive another day. Back to the vision of that incomprehensible being who, upon seeing the picture frame of Ryu, realizes that this player is currently connected in Thelha-Rathna. Believing it to be a bug, the being doesn't understand why the boy is still there and is surprised, because the 5th generation is operating in Jaren Rathna right now, and the 4th in Roha Rathna, and before that, the 3rd generation in Thelha-Rathna. Desperate, the being understands that that player has been there for more than 22 years. Sitting on the ground, the entity thinks it won't be able to invent an excuse if that person finds out and also can't end the hero's life. However, when checking the player's status, he realizes that our hero is only at level 4, questioning how he survived for 22 years. Besides, the player's skills and attributes were terrible, but that wasn't entirely bad because a malicious idea came to the entity's mind. In Thelha-Rathna, as usual, Ryu eats his Hellhound meat while saying that he always felt that reaching level 4 was a breeze. Deciding to take a look at his attributes, he activates the extra attributes visualization that reveals the protagonist's immeasurable hidden potential. Incredibly, he also couldn't understand the true potential of his strength, and thinking he is at level 4, Ryu comments that he wants to eat tasty things and meet people. The hero can't see an end to his suffering in that place, but believes that as long as he stays alive, everything will work out. Thinking positively, he believes that one day the day will come when he can leave there. Suddenly, something cracks in the sky, catching the protagonist's attention, who quickly looks at the phenomenon. The being says that if he does this, some problems might arise, and the system informs that the hero has completed the Thelha-Rathna level. Our hero doesn't understand what's happening, but the entity states that all it needs to do is erase the player and his records, believing that he will lose his life on the continent because he is still at level 4. A beam of light falls to the ground, breaking everything and lifting the rocks in an explosive phenomenon. Ryu begins to levitate and becomes very confused while the being wishes for the hero to disappear completely on the Rathna continent. As the hero is levitated, he doesn't understand why everything is happening so suddenly. He is informed that the teleportation of the chosen ones to the designated level has begun. On the continent, a storm approaches a rocky mountain. Suddenly, a lightning bolt falls from the middle of a cloud to the center of a forest. The sound of the lightning hitting the forest floor wakes a draconic descendant who grumbles about these beings not stopping coming there. The demons from other worlds are ones the monster seems to know well, judging by the equipment it apparently keeps as trophies. After all this time, everything he saw had become normal. A red sky where the sun neither rises nor sets, with piles of dead tree branches on the ground. But now, without any warning, everything changed. The hero jumps high above the trees to get a view of his surroundings. He is stunned by the landscape, unable to believe what his eyes are seeing. Being trapped in a rocky hell for so long made him forget the world's beauty, and at this moment the hero is in the saved forest in the kingdom of Greylut. Ryu throws himself into a river, belly first, laughing and enjoying his experience to the fullest. He doesn't know what is happening, and this is not his home, but it is still better than that damned mountain. However, everything is still strange because as soon as he arrived there, his level went up to 5, granting him a communication skill. Thinking for a moment, Ryu realized that he should be at least level 20 to come to the Rathna continent. So he doesn't know the real reason he was brought there, questioning whether his system is still malfunctioning and what he should do. But while peeking through the attribute window, he notices something he had never seen before. A final mission notification asking him to kill one of the 6 goddesses of Rathna. If he kills this goddess, his rewards will be eternal youth and immortality, besides being sent back to Earth with his attributes intact and his wishes granted. However, the hero must keep his identity as a being from another world a secret and register at the Hunters Guild in the corporate city of Onpros. Suddenly, that draconic monster appears and roars with great power to intimidate its opponent. Ryu realizes it is a monster and starts to worry because it seems to be a dragon. The monster calls our hero a despicable demon from another world and questions how he dares to enter its forest. Furthermore, it asks if he plans to face it without a weapon in his hands. Ryu belatedly notices he is far from his sword and sees it a few meters behind him. However, the draconic monster is preparing an attack, giving the hero no time to act, so he realizes he will have to fight empty-handed. The monster launches a burst of blue fire, saying it will burn him to ashes, but the protagonist easily dodges. While preparing a punch, he thinks this is the perfect moment to shake his enemies and kill them right after. Initially, the monster does not take the approaching blow seriously, calling it a ridiculous attempt. However, after being hit, it flies far away from the force of the blow, now opening a gap for the hero to retrieve his sword, which inevitably proved unnecessary when Ryu saw the damage his punch had caused the creature. In an epilogue, we are shown the monster's story, who was a brilliant dragon living in the skies of the Extrad Kingdom. The name of this dragon was Ephir, and it was always the pride of the knights. However, Ephor faced serious problems in the form of the kingdom's prince, who complained about wanting to ride it. However, riding a dragon is not easy, and in the end, the prince suffered a sudden death in one of his training sessions. The poor knight of Ephor was executed, and she managed to escape the kingdom with the help of other kind knights. The lone dragon, now living in the forest, had no time to feel her grief because the forest was full of humans from other worlds who appeared all the time. However, despite having received the training, she never killed her opponents. In this case, could it be said that the kind Ephor was really the source of terrible disasters? Then countless hunters gathered to hunt our poor dragon, and after being severely beaten, Ephor thought to herself that letting humans from other worlds live was a bad idea. After that, they continued to appear, so she had no choice, and besides, she is not a dragon, but a wyvern. Dragons have 4 legs and their wings are on their shoulders, whereas wyverns have wings on their forelimbs, thus, she is one of them. Besides, this is common knowledge, and begging, the monster asks to be released from the protagonist's custody. In an interrogation system, Ryu asks how she knows he's from another world, and Ephor says she wasn't sure just by looking, but that Rathmayans rarely appear there. In this case, the hero realized that this wyvern just assumed he was a person from another world. So this means no one will be able to discover his identity just by his appearance, and after this realization, Ryu asks Ephor if this is the Sade Forest in Greylut. Almost crying, Ephor says that this kingdom was destroyed years ago and is now called Exgrad, which makes the hero angry again because the tutorial is outdated. She pleads for her life, saying she didn't know he was so strong, but Ryu argues that she should have stayed quiet instead of attacking. However, the wyvern says she did it because he is a demon from another world, which makes Ryu angry at being called that. Trying to explain, Ephor says it wasn't her who said it, but the goddess, which piques the protagonist's curiosity. The wyvern asks to be treated before anything else, but the hero is very irritated. Additionally, it is revealed that humans from other worlds started appearing in Rathna 40 years ago. Initially, humans from other worlds and Rathmayans got along well, but this did not last long. Humans from other worlds began killing to level up, and the most powerful among them allied. Moreover, they created the Great Land, a group with the objective of killing the goddess. Humans from other worlds are strong because, like dragons, they can easily level up by killing their opponents. There was no way to face them since they were led by a level 100 hunter. So before the heroes came, Buralt the Sword King, Zenobia the Archmage, Garin the Terrible, and Holian the Transcendent of Life and Death arrived. They massacred the humans from other worlds in an instant, and after that, the 6 goddesses blessed the continent. Earthlings are demons from other worlds who made contracts with the evil demon god, and that is why they are quickly executed. While stepping on the animal's body, Ryu retorts, saying he was suddenly kidnapped and left to rot on a rocky mountain for decades. But when he finally leaves the place, he discovers that if anyone finds out he is from another world, the entire continent will become his enemy. Additionally, all these things happened before the wyvern was born, but the very irritated hero questions if the goddesses are scary enough to do this. Ryu states he doesn't care about making a contract with a goddess to become her minion, but he will definitely kill the damn demon god. And thus, with an intimidating aura, he asserts that he will return home alive. Looking at Ephor, the hero says he cannot let anyone know his true identity, making the wyvern tremble in fear while promising not to tell anyone. However, a terrible scream echoes throughout the mountain, revealing the monster's cruel fate. 5 days later, upon leaving the Sade Forest, huge castle walls can be seen on the horizon. This is a city in the northern part of the kingdom of Exrad, the city of Onpraz, which is not only large in size, but also in the number of inhabitants. Around it lies the Sade Forest and a dungeon in the Eifin Plain where countless monsters appear non-stop. Many hunters try to get rich quickly by risking their lives, some of them from the Onpraz Hunters Guild. People who come there are hunters or those who want to become one. However, it can also be a different case, like the fearsome beings from other worlds. Entering the Onpraz Guild, the protagonist attracts everyone's attention as he walks towards the reception. His size and physical build are impressive to the common citizens. They wonder if the man is from another guild and say he seems to be a veteran hunter. When one of the citizens was about to be rude to Ryu, the receptionist intervened, slapping the man and welcoming the hero. As she does not recognize Ryu as a hunter, she asks if it is his first time coming to the Onpraz Guild and how she can help him. While silence reigns in the place, our hero opens his mouth to state the reason for his visit. Surprising everyone's expectations, the reason was that he wanted to become a hunter. Chapter 5. Inside a cave, the draconic descendant asks if she will be helped by our hero. Ryu confirms, saying that even if his appearance is not suspicious, the fact that he doesn't have clothes or equipment from this world will reveal who he really is. The wyvern keeps grumbling, and the protagonist comments that she hasn't been killing people so far because she is a desirable beast, so he believes she won't tell his secret. With a smile on his face, our hero says that it has been a long time since he had a decent conversation with someone. Eventually, this stirs Ephor's feelings, awakening her memories of when she was a companion to humans. In light of this, she decides to change her mind. She informs him that she will help the hero, who thanks her promptly, but she asks him not to tell anyone about her. Suddenly, the protagonist starts changing clothes in front of the animal, who becomes embarrassed by such a lack of delicacy. She questions what the hero is doing and he says he's changing clothes. However, Effer is indignant that Ryu is stripping, but he argues that she is too. After putting on his clothes, the hero notes that they are too small and that he might have to tear the sleeves. Changing the subject, the wyvern decides to teach a bit of common sense of that world, asking the hero not to change clothes just anywhere. But he already knew that, asking her to inform him how to find the goddess. Effer informs him that goddesses rarely meet with people, even Rathnians. She explains that one must be one of the 4 heroes or have performed a great service to meet them and receive their blessings. She adds that the only way to get the blessing is by becoming one of those who hunt monsters in dungeons created by the demon god Ormflas. Ryu understood and mentioned that the tutorial also stated he needed to become a hunter to contact the goddesses, which confused Effer greatly. When he tried to show the tutorial window, the wyvern couldn't see it, demonstrating to the hero that he is the only one who can see it. He explained to her that it functions as a support system. However, unlike other humans from other worlds, his is broken, so he doesn't exactly know how things work. Back at the guild, Rhea recalls the advice that unlike other professions, hunters lead a much freer lifestyle. Thus, it's not strange to claim they possess higher levels. In this case, he needs to be extra cautious, as many others must have gone through the same method. Finally, while fixing the hero's hair, Effer summarized all her advice by telling him not to act like a foreigner, which made Ryu extremely anxious. The receptionist hands a form to Mr. Eric Garoon and asks if he said he was from Campbell in the north, to which he stammers a confirmation. This arouses a suspicious look from the woman, making her believe it to be something dubious. Of the smile, she maintains appearances and welcomes him. Ryu, in turn, feels relieved, thinking he would be in serious trouble if he followed the tutorial's instructions. The woman asks if the man wants to transfer from another guild to this one, but Ryu denies it, prompting her to ask how she could help him. The hero says he wants to become a hunter, and the simple phrase is enough to incite fear and alertness in everyone around him. Sweating nervously, the receptionist asks if the man is saying he is not yet a hunter, and everyone shares this sentiment. They whisper among themselves that the newcomer might be from another world, but one of them advises they stay quiet. Faced with the change in atmosphere, Ryu doesn't understand their reaction, wondering if he had done something wrong. The woman asks the hero to place his hand on the measurement stone, and he wonders if he will have to fight, but realizes their hesitation indicates uncertainty. Thus, depending on his abilities, they can create an appropriate verification following the guild's regulations. All Ryu needs to do is touch the measurement stone. He doubts if it checks if someone is from another world or not, and if he is caught there, he won't be able to meet the goddess. However, if he decides to flee, it will be the same as revealing his secret. Destroying everything there would be easier, but he is confident that everything will go well. In a reality check, the receptionist is impressed with the hero's attributes, saying that all of them are a heroic level, which impresses the citizens, while Ryu maintains a dashing pose like a soap opera heartthrob. In this case, mounted on the wyvern and wearing armor, he must now kill Ormflas, the terrible demon god, making everyone happy. Witnessing the hero's story, Effer only observed all that nonsense quietly and patiently. She states that she can't believe what she just heard, but Ryu adds that dreaming is free. Contrary to the initial expectation, when he places his hand on the measurement stone, the hero is revealed as a level 5 warrior. Initially, everyone is astonished, not believing what they see. However, they quickly burst into laughter, and at this moment, they talk among themselves about how foolish they were to think he was from another world. Ryu doesn't understand the reason for the laughter, but even the receptionist can't hold back at this moment. After the laughter, she explains that most people coming from the forests to register there are from other worlds, so if the hero's level were higher, it would be a problem. One of the men joins the conversation, saying that these damned ones start at level 20 and always say the same thing, wanting to become hunters even though they are already at level 20. Relieved, the woman informs Ryu that the registration cost is 300x. Ryu had never thought he would be happy for his level being so low. However, as he takes the money out of his pocket to pay the fee, he realizes that he spent 300x out of the 400x borrowed from Effer, which is equivalent to 11,000. Then the protagonist's identification is ready, and the receptionist informs him that his second copy will cost 80x. Additionally, she tells him to return when his level is high enough. Ryu thinks that now things are starting for real and that he needs to make his name famous in the hunter circle. The woman then asks if he has a mission in mind. The hero says he wants to explore the dungeon, and at that moment, someone interrupts the conversation, questioning his choice. A man with white hair tells him it's better to calm down instead of becoming monster food. After all, someone at level 5 should know their place. The guild woman welcomes Mr. Laud and asks if he and his group are planning to go to the Save Forest. Laud then says he's heard news. He mentions that the number of monsters in the dungeons is increasing a lot, with them now even attacking nearby houses. Laud is at level 21 and boasts that he doesn't feel right sending useless hunters to do his job. In this case, he'll have to go personally. Ryu doesn't understand why the man is so full of himself since he's at the same level as Effer. However, in a general context, he is above everyone else. Even so, the hero doesn't want to get involved with him, and the woman, trying to avoid Lod's gaze, reminds that there is still a vacancy in his group. In this case, she addresses Mr. Eric, stating that completing missions alone is impossible, and going to dungeons is even worse. This makes the hero dread what's coming. Finishing, she asks if it wouldn't be better to work with Lod's group while getting used to things around there, bringing Ryu's worst nightmare to reality. After deciding what to do, the group leader turns to one of his members, informing him that since they have a rookie now, there is no more space for him. However, the mage confronts him, saying he is level 25, and Ryu realizes that the tutorial shows a higher level than stated. In this case, he must be hiding something. In his mind, the hero thinks he stared at the mage too much, but it doesn't matter since Lod stated there was no space for him. However, making a drama, the group leader contests the situation. He says that since the request comes from Miss Seguri, the pride of the Onprus Hunters Guild, he will take care of the level 5 insect. Ryu feels irritated by being called that, but thinks he can't fight him since it would lead to a fatality. Wanting to play with the hero, Lod asks if Ryu dreams of becoming the Sword King due to the size of his sword, but when he tries to lift it, he notices something. The sword didn't even budge, making him wonder how a mere level 5 can carry such a thing. At that moment, the hero's attention turns to Lod, causing the group leader to tremble all over. Raising his sword along with the hunter, Ryu orders him to release his belonging. This excites the guild members as they don't like Lod very much, and they hope for a fight to start. Suddenly, a man with blue eyes and a mohawk approaches with his group, saying he finally found what he was looking for. The hero demonstrates his strength by lifting Lod off the ground with his sword so easily, showing he's not as weak as they thought, surprising everyone as this came from a level 5 hunter who was just registered. In such a case, the mohawk man's eyes shine with what he just saw. He tells the hero that with a body like that, he'll be able to defeat even people at level 10. However, the group leader asks Berkman not to interfere since he's training the rookie. Berkman asks if the hero's name is Eric and informs him that fighting there is not a problem, but if he damages the guild, he'll have to face everyone. After accidentally breaking a guild structure, the protagonist apologizes, saying he doesn't want to fight anyone there and doesn't want to be expelled. After being bumped by the hero, which made Lod fall to the ground, he angrily says that no one else would accept a level 5 in the group besides him. Disheartened, Ryu realizes that the man is right as he used almost all of his money just to register and can't do anything due to his low level. However, Berkman breaks the hero's feeling, saying that leveling up with the body he has will be a breeze. Furthermore, Berkman was looking for someone with a muscular body like Eric, and then offers our hero an opportunity to join his group. With a gleam in his eye, the man says he knows muscles like those don't grow overnight, and that the only reason his level is low is due to lack of experience. Ryu realizes this old man's level is quite high, but because he came from another world, his growth rate is high, so he won't be able to stay in the group for long. Even so, he will still need to make an effort if he wants to get somewhere, thanking everyone for accepting him. The city of Onprus developed thanks to the dungeon and monsters, with business and commerce revolving around these hunters. The city produced products using materials brought by hunters, and there are 2 main hunting grounds: the dungeon in the Eifin Plains and the entrance area of the Save Forest. There are some small villages near the forest, but since monsters rarely venture outside the forest, subjugation missions are very rare. However, lately the number of monster attacks in the forest outskirts has increased, so many hunters have joined subjugation missions. One typical high-level monster is known as Devolk, and despite being slow, their grip is strong enough to crush rocks. They use their own weight to create powerful attacks, charging at their opponents at high speed. One of them lands a powerful headbutt on Berkman's shield, who strains to withstand the attack. However, the warrior is stronger than the monster, skillfully countering the blow. It's the strongest tank in all of Onprus. However, dealing with 3 Devolks at once will be a difficult task. Berkman quickly realizes the attack that will come through his weak point, understanding that he momentarily let his guard down. Luckily, he manages to defend himself by countering the monster's attack halfway. However, an accident occurs with Berkman stumbling on the ground and falling to his knees under the pressure from that Devolk. At this critical moment, reinforcements arrive with a woman holding a spear passing over the monsters with extreme speed and flexibility. She pierces the neck of one of them, giving the group's tank a chance to focus on his one-on-one fight and finish off that Devolk. This woman is the DPS of the level 21 group. After the battle, she jokes if Berkman wants to retire for having difficulties, even against these weak monsters. The tank starts laughing after hearing the suggestion, but the woman notices something different about him. Analyzing his shoulder, she discovers a deep wound and despairs, stating they must return quickly to take care of it. But Berkman says it's nothing, and in a romantic moment, asks Amber not to worry about him. With a trembling voice, she comments that she has never worried about him until now. Their mouths drew closer in a beautiful scene. However, the tank's wound begins to be healed by someone interrupting this moment between the two. The person invoked the presence of Preller's breath. It's Erwin Ropal, the level 16 spiritualist of the group and Berkman's younger sister. The tank is proud of his condition and Amber is embarrassed. She also boasts in a joking tone that her brother can't do anything without her, but one of the monsters appears behind her. Fortunately, she is saved by someone who cast a powerful spell called Firehammer. This is the mage in support of the level 18 group, Hubert Krutas, who, after saving Erwin, comments on the danger she was in by being careless in this way. Berkman's group is the best when it comes to a balanced and coordinated team. They don't just focus on attacks and are the most reliable in on-press. Checking out their teamwork, Ryu thinks there's no better place to be than this. And that's why his situation is boring, because while the group members fight, he just needs to hide and work as a baggage carrier. He had been left out of battles because his level was still too low, but they still split the profits equally with him, so it's not all bad. Things were going very well, but there was a problem that only the hero could see at that moment. Hundreds of Devolks were approaching in an ambush led by their level 25 lord, who begins to taunt his opponent for being a human. However, suddenly the leader of the monster succumbs to some injuries from projectiles launched into his body. The perpetrator of the attack was Ryu, who did this with mere shots of small stones. The hero is disappointed because even with the highest level among them, it didn't yield any experience points, and the system informs that he needs to hunt monsters of higher levels. He believes he should ask the group to hunt stronger monsters next time, and at that moment, Erwin informs her groupmate that it's time to gather. In the post-battle environment amid wooden houses, that woman forcefully stabs a knife into the monster's belly and then thrusts her arm inside the wound. With a smile on her face, she removes the monster's heart and shows it to her brother, saying they should get at least 15x for this. The mage confirms the magic stone is quite large and says they can surely get great value for it. Furthermore, they can sell the Devolk leather, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and while observing the situation, Ryu thinks under normal circumstances he would have vomited. But he had also dissected many hellhounds, so it was no longer a novelty, prompting the hero to take the lead in producing the materials. After impressing everyone with his skills, Erwin asks how the protagonist manages to do it so quickly, and he explains he's been doing it for the past 20 years. This makes the woman curious about her colleague's age, who claims to be 24. Berkman joins the conversation and asks the hero about his parents. He explains that because he was kidnapped 20 years ago, he didn't remember much about them, and that now it was impossible to go back home. This touches everyone, especially Berkman, who never imagined the burden the hero carried, but now he didn't need to feel bad anymore as they decide to welcome him as family. Everyone gathers to try to console the hero, saying everything will be okay, and Ryu just thinks these people are really nice. The protagonist claims to be grateful for allowing someone as low level as him in the group, but Berkman consoles him, saying he stayed at level 25 for 5 years. This confuses the hero because the tank's current level is 25, so Erwin intervenes, informing that there aren't many high-level monsters around except those in the dungeon. Amber explains that the Devolk Lord is considered a high-level monster there, and that they don't need to hunt stronger monsters than those since they have no intention of going to places like dungeons. At this moment, our protagonist has a reality check and begins to worry about his future. He decides then to take action, standing up and telling everyone he will practice with his sword. While the hero moves away, Berkman asks his colleague not to strain himself too much, and the mage says not to approach the saved forest because it's a dangerous place. Among them, Erwin comments that a kind man like the hero obviously can't be someone from another world, and the mage says he will accompany him, which the tank agrees with. Approaching the fence, Hubert asks Mr. Eric how his training is going. However, even after looking everywhere, he can't find a trace of Ryu. While running at high speed through saved forest, the hero says it's impossible, because even finding various life forms, there isn't a single monster there that gives him experience. Starting to despair, Ryu frantically searches for one, but the ones he finds don't even seem to be monsters, resembling more domestic animals. In his memories, a conversation with Effer came to mind. Ryu asked if it wouldn't be dangerous for her to live in the forest, and she smiled, saying she was the strongest in the area. Then the hero comes to terms with reality, feeling defeated because there really isn't any opponent worthy of him. But he thinks it makes sense since monsters with levels similar to wyverns don't give him experience, and it's good that he returns before it gets late. Suddenly, a loud explosion is heard by our protagonist. This makes him remember the hellhound dragons from his old world. Quickly, he dashes off to find the noise that caught his attention, because even though it's not as grandiose as the hellhounds, it surely couldn't have come from a normal monster. In his mind, Ryu believes that if he can hunt down the being responsible for the explosion, maybe he can also level up. Upon finally arriving at the source of the noise, the hero prepares to draw his sword and calls out the monster for battle. However, the situation in front of him is nothing like what he expected. Upon reaching his destination, Ryu finds a man with long red hair completely naked. The man turns out to be the mage from before, who is surprised by the unwanted visit, but our protagonist also didn't expect this and decides to apologize. Making the connection that the man in front of him is Laud's group mage, the hero still wonders why he's naked. However, he knows that at the moment, that's not what matters since there's no monster there. Despite this, he was certain the sound came from there but decides to apologize and leaves, saying he will pretend not to have seen anything. However, the mage asks Ryu to wait for a moment, commenting that he seems very suspicious, which leaves our protagonist indignant because he was not in a position to say such a thing. Completely naked, the mage continues, asserting that this is not a place where a level 5 can be. While thinking he must find the monster soon, Ryu says he heard a loud noise as he passed by and thought there might be a big monster nearby, and that since his group must be waiting, it's better for him to go. But the mage was outraged and went to his wand to prepare an offensive. He creates a circle of fire around Ryu, interrupting his farewell, and asks the hero to stop right now and tell him the truth. The mage asks if Ryu saw the monster and threatens him with a fire spell if he doesn't tell. Unexpectedly, our protagonist walks towards the man and closes his hand around the tip of his wand, extinguishing the fire from the magic. At this moment, the mage becomes completely defenseless and the hero's expression changes to seriousness. He says he doesn't know why this is happening because he already said he didn't see any monster. Furthermore, Ryu asks what's wrong with the mage and Laud, because they're always underestimating low-level people. That mage in turn claims that's not what he was trying to say, and apologizes, admitting to acting too emotionally. In the depths of the forest, Laud watched the entire conversation and decided to draw his weapons because he was filled with tremendous hatred for Ryu. He then shouts something to be heard, already preparing for combat, and this obviously catches the hero's attention. A misunderstanding is clear as Laud comments, seeing the proximity of the two, that apparently Ryu decided to show his claws now. In a fighting stance, Laud says that humiliating Miss Seguri alone was not enough, so Ryu had the audacity to lay hands on the lady of his group. The hero doesn't understand who the group leader is calling a lady, and the mage states that his colleague must not have understood what's going on, so maybe they should leave. Laud is a powerful magical swordsman, and despite that pose, it indicates that he is preparing to execute a technique, and the pose is the disadvantage of being in this class. But when he assumes that pose, he never hesitates, so the leader of his group says he will say only one more thing. While asking about the name of the enemy who will be defeated with his twin blades, the hero tells the mage it's better to get dressed. Upon realizing he was being ignored, he becomes deeply irritated and decides to attack at once, exuding a powerful electric aura from his swords. With a serious look, Laud says he will show the difference between their levels, thus going after the hero with his storm sword skill. Ryu, on the other hand, doesn't want to escalate this into a big fight, so at the moment the sword approaches his neck. He bends, dodging the attack and apologizing. However, as he crouches down, a part of the sword's hilt hits the man's genital organ, and a strong burst of air along with lightning was caused in the place, generating a noise that echoed throughout the forest. Back at the lodging and sitting in one of the wooden houses, the hero has his sword stuck in the ground and seems to lament something. Berkman intervenes, saying Mr. Attis informed him of what happened and that it wasn't his fault, but Ryu says this is a pain for which he cannot be forgiven. After deciding to wait only for the results, Urwis opens the cabin door, leaving everyone curious about the outcome of the situation. The tank sister warns that Laud is not in life-threatening condition since he was brought in quickly, but the situation was serious. Upon entering the cabin to check the real state of the man, everyone fell silent. Although blame could fall on him, the pain and suffering he was going through could not be solely attributed to one person. This was something no one could comfort him with. That morning, Mr. Etist took Laud back to Onpras City. Next, the group leader finally found out the truth about Attis's gender and had difficulty facing him again. The hero couldn't find the monster responsible for that huge noise, but he quickly forgot about it after spending 3 months with Bucherman's group. In front of Save Forest at the camp, someone is upset about news regarding Laud. The situation seems serious because, according to rumors, he decided to go to the dungeon alone. Amber comments that going to the dungeon alone with that hunter's level is akin to committing suicide, so Ryu questioned it because he thought Laud's level was high. She says it is, but he's used to facing weak monsters, which they hunted to survive, naturally helping him level up. However, there were no high-level monsters, which the hero easily understood, so he decided to ask if the ones in the dungeon were different. Amber explains that they are not originally from this world. The monsters are created by dungeons installed by the demon god Ormflas, so it's common to see some near level 30 or even higher. In Ryu's mind, he believes these level 31s must help him level up, so it's necessary to go to the dungeon even if secretly. However, Berkman informs him that monsters are not the only problem, and Urwis adds that many humans from other worlds secretly hunt there, causing the hero to give up. In case it's such a dangerous place, Ryu is curious why Laud is going there, and Bucherman explains it's probably due to a healing artifact. Upon questioning about the artifact, it's explained that the source of power inside these dungeons are artifacts, items of various shapes with various abilities. According to rumors, one of these artifacts has the power to heal any kind of wound, so Laud probably hopes to find one of those. Numerous monsters have been emerging from Save Forest lately. In this case, Bucherman hopes this isn't a bad omen, but Ryu understands this must be his only option. As night falls in the forest, everyone in the cabin lies down to sleep. However, our hero decides to take a walk alone. He says no matter how many times he comes, it's still scary, and there shouldn't be a way for a huge monster not to appear in a place like this. Remembering Effer lives nearby, the hero thinks it's best to go to her and ask. However, as he passes by a tree, something different from usual appears in front of him. Yawning, Ryu tries to remember where the wyvern lives and doesn't notice a monster behind him. The two stare at each other for a brief moment, and upon realizing what's happening, the hero is startled. He backs away, questioning what the being in front of him is, and prepares to draw his sword. This monster is a level 31 Tatiro. The description informs that sword attacks are useless because its body is covered in a shell, and they usually live in the dungeon. Ryu doesn't understand why a dungeon monster is there and ponders what the monster system said about being resistant to physical attacks. In this case, these are terrible opponents to face. Given their advantage over the hero's fighting style, they also have greater numbers. Demonstrating they are capable of talking, one of them asks if he's a mage, and another denies it after noticing the sword the man was carrying. At this point, the Tateros start laughing at Ryu's face for being a swordsman, but he lands a vertical strike on one of them that cuts it in half in one go. Rejoicing upon realizing the tutorial is a lie and leaving the monsters in shock. The desperate Tateros discuss among themselves that the hero's weapon actually has magic imbued in it. However, the monster's pride speaks louder and shouts that knives don't hurt them because they've always devoured swordsman humans. After finishing his speech, Ryu quickly appears in front of the monster, asking what it's talking about. One of them wisely decides to flee as he realizes the trouble he's in and that it's dangerous outside the dungeon. However, in an instant, Ryu catches up and asks where the monster is going, which freezes him with fear. In a desperate attempt to save his life, the Tatiro starts digging under a tree. He tries to flee as fast as possible, and Ryu stays by his side because he wants to go wherever the monster is going. After digging a lot, the monster finally reveals the portal from where it came and prepares to escape. Ryu comments that he found the Tatiro, but his attention turns to the portal in front of him. The hero asks the monster what this is, but doesn't want to talk. Then the system informs that it's a magical teleportation in use with destination to the Eiffen Plain dungeon. The fact there's a portal connected to the dungeon sparks Ryu's interest and curiosity. He had never heard of something like this appearing in the dungeon and asks if this is something the monsters did, but the Tatiro informs him they don't use magic. The monster's answer doesn't convince Ryu, who questions him again and says he would let him go free if he told him. However, if there won't be any cooperation, our protagonist states that he will just have to destroy everything. However, the monster becomes desperate, saying that there can't be any destruction because no one can enter by that person's order. The hero doesn't know who this person is, but still decides to enter the portal and tells the monster to pretend it didn't see anything. The monster's current mission must be to ensure that no one enters the portal so that person won't find out. Despite doing this to safely explore the dungeon, the Tatiro was convinced by that argumentation and started covering the hole with dirt again, claiming to know nothing. Already in the dungeon, the claws of a Tatiro are dangerously close to the face of a hunter who is in real danger. He seems cornered, being pinned down, but still worries about his group mate, telling her to hold on. After managing to free himself from that unfavorable position, the hunter prepares a powerful kick, hitting the monster's head, while telling it to stay away from his partner. However, it's noticeable that so far none of his attacks have worked. His axe is completely useless in this case. Magic truly seems to be the only possible solution. At this moment, a Tatiro ends up piercing Alicia's left leg, making her moan in pain and fear. Even wounded, the mage casts a spell, asking for the great light to spread his presence in the place along with its bright sound. Thus, she conjures the flash spell that blinds the monster. However, the axe hunter is also affected by the flash, realizing that everything is blurry at the moment, but at least he can see through one eye. While covering one of his eyes, the hunter asks Runel for help with his healing. But when he turns his face towards his friend, something completely shocks him. Unfortunately, his groupmate has been captured by a Tatiro and is no longer alive. Facing this, the hunter prayed to the heavens for someone to come to his group's rescue because their tragic end was closer than ever. Before being finished off as well, the hunter pleaded for help again, now losing hope. Then the Axeman is surrounded by a pool of blood coming from his back. However, the blood isn't his. It's the monster's because, in answer to his prayers, someone appeared to help, defeating several Tatiros at once. The hunter realizes that the Tatiro's head was severed with just one blow and not just one. It's mentioned that a Tatiro always protects its head with laminated arms, and the space to attack the neck is extremely small. However, this person first made the monster lower its arms and then cut off its head using that opportunity. Facing this technique can only be done by a magical swordsman user of jewel blades like Lod, the man in front of him. Lod asks if the hunter knows him, and he informs that yes, they had heard that he came to the dungeon to hunt days ago. The man praises his savior, saying he's amazing, and Lod awkwardly thanks him, having only been trying to survive for the past 70 days. To not miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and until next time on Tob's channel.